What is going on, guys? We're back playing some more Surviving with Mekanism. And today, guys, we're going to be producing HDPE, and we're also going to be using the Formulaic Assembler along with that for some auto crafting. Now, if you don't know what HDPE is, it's pretty much just a type of plastic. It's a thermoplastic made from petroleum, and if you don't know what the acronym stands for, it is high density polyethylene. Now, it's also sometimes called polyethylene high density. That's a little bit less common for the name, but we're getting a little bit too in depth into the actual real world stuff behind it. We're going to go to the Mekanism stuff behind it though, so hopefully it rings a bell for you guys, because we worked with producing ethylene a while ago. A lot of the stuff that we used is in this chest right here. A lot of the sugar cane, we still have some of the stuff in our inventory for the setup. We got some substrate here, which was a byproduct of it, but we produced the ethylene and we got the substrate as a byproduct, and the substrate is actually what we're going to be turning back into HDPE pellets by combining it with some of the ethylene that we're going to be producing along with some oxygen. So this is going to allow us to get pretty much just plastic sheets in the mod. And I'm actually going to be using those to replace the lights around my base. But I thought it'd be interesting to show you guys this whole setup, because although it might not be the most useful thing, it does get you pretty much the only lighting options that Mekanism has to offer. And along with that, it's finally going to allow us to do something with all this substrate we would be getting, because aside from just tossing this out, you do get a fair bit of it. So we're going to be working with that today, and we're going to be setting it all up over there. I am going to be redoing the power generation setup for the gas burning generator and the ethylene a little bit, just because they do kind of intertwine a lot. And then we're going to be using the Formulaic Assembler, like I mentioned, for some auto crafting. It is pretty much the only way you can auto craft in Mekanism, and it's pretty darn awesome. So we do need to get into crafting. So the first thing that we're going to be crafting is going to be another pressurized reaction chamber. So we're already using one of these in the setup over there. It's actually in my inventory right now, and that is what we use with the biofuel to turn it into ethylene. So we're going to be using another one of those. I've got all these miscellaneous blocks right here because we're going to be setting up the induction matrix again over in a more conventional spot, just so that we can put the power in it and take it out easily. Now this stuff right here is going to be used for the Formulaic Assembler. It's pretty much just a fancy way of crafting a crafting table, as you can probably tell. So we're going to get the Formulaic Assembler. I guess I should put Formulaic, make it a little bit more specific. So there we go. We got the Formulaic Assembler. And then we're going to be making a crafting formula, which is just a basic control circuit and some paper. So, it does not want to let us craft this. That is very, very odd. Okay, well, hopefully we can make do without that. We might need to pop back. I have tested it out, and you can actually make do without it for a little bit, but this is kind of odd that we don't have that. Okay, well, we'll pocket that for later, and we'll come back to that. It might just be a little bit of a bug. I do have an extra gas tank there, just so that we can store some of the ethylene that we do get. And then we've got some typical stuff down here where we're going to be doing another electrolytic separator, and we're going to be doing a pump. So we'll put those right there, and we'll save the best for last. Which is going to be a rotary condensator, because we do need to turn the ethylene into liquid ethylene, and I was about to type ethylene there, but we need electrolytic separator, which would be right here. Gonna need a fair bit of upgrades for these off camera, but we can grab this stuff out and finish with the rotary condensator. So there we go. I'm a little disappointed. We had a lot of stuff in here to craft. I'm a little disappointed that this didn't work, though. Hopefully we can make it function without that, because that does seem to be a little bit of an issue. But we can run over here. Now, I have been storing the zombie flesh or the rotten flesh over here, because even though this is hooked up, it's all ready to go. I've got the input set to a color on the back. It should be dark green, and all of the zombie flesh should be getting sent to dark green, but maybe it's a little messed up right now, but it should work once I take this bin out of the way and it doesn't have anywhere else to go. So, redoing the setup a little bit here. If you guys don't know, the pressurized reaction chamber is a little bit of an annoying block to work with. And the reason behind that is because it does have some side-specific inputs to it, and along with that, it does require a lot of different inputs. So, the first one we're going to be working with, and I do have the gauge dropper here just in case these do get a little bit messed up, is going to be it should be the one just to produce regular ethylene, and that should go somewhere along the lines of, it should go somewhere over here. I want to put it probably, I'm trying to think of how I can get away with this. We should probably be able to put it right over here. We're going to have to dig into the wall behind this a little bit, so I really hope there's nothing there, and I am going to change this to normal. Okay, so there really isn't anything there. I did move the redstone clock to be back there, or the hopper timer, I should call it. Now, the reason I'm a little bit worried about having stuff behind that is just because the liquid is going to be put in the back. Now, if we look in here, this is the biofuel. It's got the ethylene. Obviously, it saves everything in it. Hydrogen that we're going to get from the electrolytic separator, and water. So we're going to be using a lot of the inputs on this thing. So the first thing we need to do is get the logistical transporter, and we need to be pulling out of this crusher, pull the biofuel out, and input it in here. So we should be okay to input it in the bottom, and that should be all good. There's really nowhere for it to go in here, so we can actually pull out this biofuel and make sure that this will work if we set it to pull, and this should be set to, it should be set to auto eject on that side. Yeah, so auto eject on that side, and then input that on the bottom. There we go. Okay, so that should be good. Fills it up perfectly fine. It's always good to check when you're using the pressurized reaction chamber because of specific things like the liquid only being able to go in the back, stuff along those lines. And the powering might get a little bit weird. We might have to kind of move where we input the items on this, but the next thing we need to do is get our pump set up. And I actually don't have any water on me right now. We'll have to grab some, but the electrolytic separator we're going to be using is going to be producing both the hydrogen that we're going to be using in this one, and it's going to be producing the oxygen that we use in the other pressurized reaction chamber. So I am going to put the pump somewhere along the lines of like right over here. We could put it pretty much just in this corner right here, because why not? And I'm just going to replace these blocks around here so it looks a little nice if we ever have to come over here. And there we go. Grab out our pump. The reason I did have to recraft the pump and everything after making this setup was just because, oh, it's not on rotate, was because I actually stole the pump and the electrolytic separator from this setup to work with the 5x ore processing, I think, which is great. You know, it's always decreasing the FPS when we look over there. I might actually move that away from the base so that this doesn't happen in the future, but we'll worry about powering later. I'll do that off camera because what I'm going to do is make, I'm going to make a full loop all the way around here and put it into the induction matrix, and then I'm going to pull the power back out just so that we make sure that this is always powering itself before anything else. So we need to grab out our mechanical pipe right here, and along with sending this to the electrolytic separator, which I'm probably going to put somewhere right over here, we're also going to be putting it in the back up here. So we do have to get up, and ooh, you can kind of see in there. So we're going to pull it over here. And there we go. I might actually need to push it around the rest of that way if we ever need to get into the top for this, but I think we should be okay for now. And along with that, we're also going to pull it over and put it into an electrolytic separator, which will go right over here. So I'm trying to keep these relatively spaced out just so that I don't have any issues with trying to kind of move things around in here and maneuver it in different ways. So we can worry about this running in a little bit, but we're going to be pulling out we're going to be putting the hydrogen in this side, so it actually should be, I think it outputs hydrogen out this side and oxygen out this side, so we might need to flip it around a little bit. You know what, I should just be sure. I've used it so much that I feel like I should know by now, but I actually do just want to be sure, so we're going to run over here and check really quick so I don't mess this up, because it's not going to be running for the time being. So this should be right here. Yeah, so it's outputting oxygen out the same side. It kind of sucks that that electrolytic separator had nothing in it, just because I'd be able to easily tell if there was something in there. But yeah, so it should be outputting oxygen and that out the opposite sides that we actually need it to output it out of, because this one needs the hydrogen. So I'm going to flip this around. Is that on rotate? Oh, it should have been on rotate. Huh. Let's see if we can... Oh man, do we actually have to get to the other side to rotate it? I think we do. Yeah, okay, so we actually got to get behind this to rotate it. Darn it. Okay, that's a little bit annoying. What? It doesn't want to rotate it. You know what? We're just going to break it and we're going to replace it. I hate using the rotate function. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. Okay, so now everything should be getting output out the correct side for this. So we'll be able to pull out, let's get our pressurized tube. This one is going to come over and it's going to go into this side. Now this does get a little bit weird in here. I'm actually going to rotate this eventually, yeah, back to one of those walls, because we'll put the power in back there for it. And it's getting a little dark in here, so I'm going to light this up. We still will use some torches in places like this, but the main goal of this, like I said, is to make it so that we don't have to use torches, because a lot of you guys complained about that. So now that we've got this, this should pretty much be all set except for pulling the ethylene out of this, which actually is, I believe, going to come out this side right over here. So I may, trying to think about how we want to do this. We'll put the other pressurized reaction chamber and all of that going on this side. So we're going to set this up before we set up the actual power generation, just because we're actually going to be splitting these, and that'll be a little bit easier to do later, because right now, all we need to do for the power generation is pull the ethylene out of here, and we're good to go. That's just send it to the gas burning generator, and we're done with that. But we're actually going to be making 2 lines, and one of them is going to be redstone activated. So if we throw down, I guess we can do the gas burning generator up here. So we'll just throw this down kind of right over here, and this is not going to be the finalized spot for it, but then we'll take the pressurized tube and we will bring it up and over, and so it'll be able to go in right here. And what? Oh, that's it, switched it. Okay, so we ran out. I actually do need to go make some more, but what we're going to be doing is pretty much saying if we flip a lever, one of them is going to open up and it will allow the pressurized reaction chamber to fill. Which was that? That was a pressurized, so we just need... Let's make 16 more of the basic ones. Should be good to go there. There we go. So pretty much we're going to be flipping a switch, and it's going to allow the ethylene to go into one of the setups and not the other. So we'll split it right here, and I guess we can actually just split it directly like this. And we're going to be putting down the Rotary condensator. And the reason we're doing this is because it's coming in as ethylene right now. It's going through the gas. And then we need to get into liquid ethylene, which is going to, of course, happen with the rotary condensator. So this should be good. It should be, yeah, condensating, so that should be what we want. And then we want it to go into another pressurized reaction chamber. Now, again, I got to be kind of careful with how I place this down, just because of the sides that we need for it. Because we want this to be going into the back of it. So I don't know if we'll be able to do it like I want to do it right now. So if we throw this down right here, then yeah, this could be a little bit of an issue. I might need to move it over 1. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We'll move it over 1. And you guys will see why I'm doing this in a second. So we need to get out our mechanical. Did we run out of mechanical too? Did I just barely have enough? Are you serious? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we got to go make some more mechanical just to transport the liquid ethylene like 2 blocks. And mechanical is actually, it's not really expensive to make, but it's a little bit more expensive than a piece of glass. So there we go. We got our mechanical. I always use these basic tubes just because I'm in no rush. I'll go through one day and just upgrade all of these. But we're going to be pulling it out this side, and it's going to be going into the back of this, just like we did with the other one. Liquids are always going to be going in the back. And there we go. So that'll be putting the liquid ethylene in the back of this instead of water. And the next thing we need to worry about is getting the oxygen from this into there, and it's really easy to do. We're just gonna move it like so, and there we go. So it's gonna go on one side, and the reason that I set it up like this and said it was a little weird is because we do need this side to be accessible. We also need the other side to be accessible. This might seem a little bit weird, but this actually does produce oxygen as a byproduct of this, which is interesting. It consumes 10 and produces 5. So you really don't need that much. If it's using 5 oxygen per process, the internal storage should be 10,000. So you really won't notice much of a drop once this thing fills up. And that was 10,000 without any, or it was 5 without any upgrades. So assuming we can use, we should be able to use the gas upgrade on this. Muffling, come on, show me gas. Darn it. Okay, so we can't use the gas upgrade on this, unfortunately. So it looks like we will be stuck with 5 oxygen per, but yeah, so that's going to be that. That's why you do need to pipe it back around, and I actually think we need to set it to pull over here, so we just got to get up here, and stupid torch in the way. Torch is always causing problems, so I think it, yeah, there we go, configure items, and there we go. So that'll be pulling it out there, throw that back down, there we go. And that'll be pulling it out there. That'll be pulling it out there. So we should be all good on this. Getting the power around here is really going to suck, but whatever. I'll figure out a way. So this should be all good except for inserting the substrate. And this is where it becomes a little bit annoying. This torch is going to get broken because we actually need to access the front of this. And that is where these two get connected, because substrate is going to be a byproduct of this, and it is going to be going to this. And I actually do want to grab... I guess I can grab a bin for this, or a chest. You know what, we'll grab a chest for this just because setting up a bin would take a little bit more time because of having to put it in the top and pull it out the bottom. But we're going to set this up and we can put it pretty much right here, I think. It's going to act like a buffer, and we need our logistical transporters. So from over here, these are going to connect to the front, and it's pretty much just going to go like so and like so. So it's going to be inputting in the front like that, and we should be all good. So this one we're going to set to push. We're going to set that to pull, push, and pull. So I don't think we actually need to set these to push, but I'm just doing it anyway. So this will act kind of like a middleman for the substrate because we're not going to be making as much HDPE. And I will worry about flipping this off later. Eventually it will cause a backup and this will no longer need ethylene anyway. So it'll kind of ruin our power generation to start. But now that I think about it, it consumes so little ethylene that it's kind of irrelevant. Along with this, we can set... which one? We need the oxygen to be dumping excess. So that one's going to be dumping excess just because this is going to eventually fill up. And we want the hydrogen to continue producing. So we'll have that be perfectly fine. And lastly, I think up here is where I'm going to use the basic gas tank. So should be able to do it like right... let's do it in a less awkward spot. We'll do it closer to this side. So gas tank right there, that'll just act as a buffer for an input and an output. Eventually I'll upgrade this, and that'll just be in case we aren't burning the ethylene because we for some reason don't need any more power, and it'll be able to store it there. So this should actually be all good to go now. Aside from hooking it up with the matrix and all of that and get the power going, I'm going to hop off camera. I'm going to do that because we've already been finagling around with a lot of stuff on camera. But yeah, I'll jump back and this system should be ready to go. Okay guys, so we are back. Now everything is running right now. It's a lot of that humming. A lot of the machines make that same noise in this setup, but everything should be running perfectly now. We've got the power hooked up over here. It's been going into the induction matrix. It's also making sure that all these machines are powered. I do need to have upgrades in all of these, and ooh, it looks like I forgot to reconnect this right there. That should fix a little bit of the issue, but yeah, so everything should be working perfectly. It is a little bit messy, it is a little bit cramped, but typically most of my setups are. You can see over here that this should very slowly be using oxygen. Yep, it's going pretty much at 5 per. I will get the upgrades in these and everything so that they're running faster, so that they're running on, you know, less energy, all of that stuff. I'll make sure it's working properly. The universal cables were a little bit finicky hooking them up. I don't really know why, but at certain places it would just stop. Like, you know, one has energy in it, the next one would stop. And as far as I know, these don't have max distances. They shouldn't, at least. And then I would just kind of change up how it was wired a little bit and it would start working again. So I really hope those aren't issues that happen when I log on. If that is the case, I might need to rewire this whole room. But as you can see, we're getting a lot of HDPE pellets right now, which is pretty good because that's what we need. Now, of course, if we did have that crafting formula that I was trying to make before that I'm having an issue with now, we would put that right up in the left portion of the UI here that you can see is getting highlighted. You can see you can encode the formula. You pretty much take what's down here and we'd put the recipe up here and we'd encode it. So if we wanted to, we can see that this is, it changes from an X to a check mark. This is a valid recipe right here. Unfortunately, this turn auto mode on is not an option. It's grayed out right now. That option is not grayed out if you have a formula. And I believe the reason behind that is because if we turn on auto, it would cycle through and it would use these items in the formula to craft an item. If that wasn't the case and we didn't actually have you know, if we had an actual formula and it didn't need actual items to determine what it's making, then it would be able to use up however many it has and just go off the formula. But right now it's got nothing to remember the formula with. So hopefully if there's a newer version that I have yet to download, that won't be an issue anymore. If, you know, it is still an issue, then I'll figure out how to report it for you guys, because the Formulaic Assemblicator is, and I called it the Formulaic Assembler, but it's the Assemblicator, is really the only way to auto craft in this. So, you know, we can use the craft single item, craft available items. So if we were to just craft a single item, it would give us the HDPE sheet. It is kind of depressing. So let's see. Yeah, it just empties it. If we craft the available items, you can see it crafts one. You can pretty much use it like a crafting grid. So if I get the formula then we're good to go. But for now, you really can't use that. All you would do though is fill it up like this. You'd have the check mark there, you'd click encode formula, then you click turn auto mode on, and it would pretty much just continuously run. Now, it looks like we ran out of biofuel over here because I have yet to put in all of this rotten flesh, but we should have a lot of substrate that needs to get produced, and the big thing for me is just making sure all of these stay powered. So it looks like this one, yeah, it looks like the power is a little bit weird. It literally uses like half the power to get through this, but it really doesn't have a big internal buffer compared to some of these. That's a really small buffer. What the heck? 2 kilojoules? Every other machine has so many more. That's so weird. But yeah, that is the setup. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please feel free to give it a like. And one thing that I want to let you guys know, actually a couple things, I will fix the lighting off camera for next episode, just so that, you know, you guys can be happy that we won't have torches anymore. Another thing though, it was suggested by one of my, regular viewers that I make a subreddit. And so I thought, you know what? Sure. So I will be linking my Reddit in the description now. It's pretty much there just so that you guys, if you have any questions for me, can ask me. I think it's against like Reddit policy to post your own videos on there, so I would never post my videos on there. You can feel free to if you guys want, but really just if you have any questions for me, if you guys ever want to talk to each other, try and find people to play with. This is an awesome community that I have here. I know a lot of people in the comments have asked me to play on servers, and I really don't have the time, but if you guys would ever like to play on servers with each other, that could be a great place to go. I don't expect that it'll get much use because I'm not some huge channel, but I thought I'd put it out there for you guys if you ever do want to use it, and say thank you for the awesome suggestion, because that really is great. So yep, that'll be linked in the description now from now on, along with my Patreon and Twitter and all that good stuff. So if you do want to check it out, then thank you. That is awesome. And if not, perfectly fine. But I will talk to you guys later.